All right, let's get into it. Every single business you can think of, from the tiniest startup to a massive corporation, is absolutely swimming in data. But, have you ever stopped to wonder how they actually talk to all of it? How do they ask it questions and get answers? Well, it turns out there's a special language for that, and it's what turns a mountain of chaos into crystal clear instructions. I mean, really, just picture it for a second. Millions of sales, millions of users, tons of products in an inventory. How on earth do they keep all of that straight? How do they find one specific order from 6 months ago without everything just collapsing into a giant digital mess? Well, it's not magic, I promise. It all starts with a pretty simple idea. The best way to think about it is this. A database is just a company's giant, perfectly organized digital notebook. Seriously, everything has its own specific place. But here's the catch. You can't just scribble in it with plain English. You need a special language, almost like a universal translator between you and the data. And that language is SQL. Okay, so learning a whole new language sounds kind of daunting, right? So let's not think about it as lines of code. Instead, I want you to imagine SQL as a team of specialists. Think of them as a little crew, where each member has a super specific job and their own unique personality, and they all work together to run that giant notebook. So let's meet them. First up, meet DDL, which stands for Data Definition Language, but we're just going to call this one the architect. The architect is all about the big picture, the blueprint. They don't care about the tiny details inside the notebook. Their entire job is to design, build, and change the structure of the notebook itself.
You can almost hear the architect thinking out loud, can't you? They're always looking at the overall design. Do we need a whole new section for this? Should we make this part bigger? This old page is just clutter. Let's get rid of it. It's all about building a solid foundation.
And so, the architect's main tools are commands like create to build new structures, alter to change existing ones, and drop to, tear them down. They're the ones who build the house before anyone else can even think about moving in. So who moves the furniture in? Well, that would be our next crew member, DML, the data manipulation language, or as we call them, the data manager. If the architect builds the house, the data manager is the one who works inside it, handling all the day-to-day stuff, adding things, changing things, and taking things away. The data manager is just always on the go, right in the middle of all the action. A new piece of info comes in, they're on it. Something's wrong, they fix it. Something's not needed anymore, they clear it out. It's this constant, hands-on work that keeps all the information inside that notebook accurate. So yeah, their toolkit is super straightforward. Insert for adding new stuff, update for changing what's already there, and delete for getting rid of it. Simple, powerful, and absolutely essential. Okay, now for my personal favorite. What's so interesting about this one is they don't change a single thing. Meet DQL, the data query language, better known as the detective. The detective's only job is to ask questions, to poke around in the notebook and find very specific pieces of information. You see, the detective is pure curiosity. They're not building anything, they're not managing daily tasks. Nope, they're on a mission to find insights, to uncover those hidden patterns and stories in the data that can totally change how a business operates. And the detective has one tool and one tool only. The mighty select command. Now, don't let that fool you. Even though it's just one word, select is probably the most powerful and the most used command in the entire SQL language. It is the absolute workhorse that turns all that raw data into actual intelligence. And finally, we've got the security and safety team. These two are so critical. First, there's DCL, the guardian, who's basically the bouncer. They decide who gets a key to the notebook and which rooms they're allowed to go into. Then you have TCL, the confirmer, who makes sure every change is safe. They're the one who hits the final save button, or hits undo if something goes wrong. See how they work together? They're the gatekeepers. The guardian uses GRANT and REVOKE to handle permissions. Meanwhile, the confirmer uses COMMIT to make changes permanent, or ROLLBACK to completely undo them if there's a mistake. It's like having a master save and a master undo button for everything. Okay, that's the crew in theory. It's a nice little story, right? But how does this actually play out in a real business? Well, let's put them to work. We're going to look at a fictional company called Mint Nexus TCG, a startup that makes a trading card game based on finance.
At a company like Mint Nexus, every member of our SQL crew has a really important mission. The architect, their job is to literally build the game's universe inside the database. The data manager, they handle the constant stream of sales and player updates. The detective, they're figuring out which cards are hot and which are not. And the guardian, well, they're protecting the whole thing. So here we see the architect, that's DDL, getting to work. They use the create command not just to make a table, but to build a digital vault for the company's secret card designs. Then they use altar to add new shelves to better organize those cards. And when there's old junk lying around, they use drop to clean it up. They are literally defining the world the game lives in. And right on cue, the data manager, our DML, jumps in. Every single time a player buys a pack, an insert command logs that sale. When a player hits a new level, an update command changes their status. And when a card is taken out of print, a delete command removes it from the inventory. This right here, this is the daily heartbeat of the business. But this? Oh, this is where it gets really cool. The detective, DQL, comes in to ask the million-dollar question, what's our hottest product right now? They use a select command to dig through all that sales data. They're not just looking at a list of numbers, they're hunting for a story. So, what does that story actually look like? And bam, there it is. That's the magic. The detective's simple question turns thousands of individual sales into this one powerful bar chart. It is so clear. The stock cards are crushing it. This isn't just data anymore. This is a direct message from the customers, screaming, hey, make more of this. So when you zoom out and look at the whole picture, you start to see that our SQL crew isn't just a random bunch of commands. They actually work together in a really logical flow. They manage the entire life of a piece of data, from birth to analysis. Think about it. First, the architect builds the house using DDL. Then, the data manager moves all the furniture in and arranges it with DML. After that, the detective comes in and asks what's inside using DQL. And the whole time, the guardian is handing out keys with DCL. And the confirmer is there with TCL, making sure every change is safe. That's the process. That is the fundamental workflow. And that really is the biggest thing to take away from all this. SQL isn't just some technical skill for programmers. It's the language we use to have a real conversation with our data. And learning about these different command types, that's your first step to becoming fluent. Because believe me, your data is talking all the time. Every click, every purchase, every single interaction is trying to tell you something important. The only question left is, are you ready to learn its language so you can finally understand what it's trying to say?